In a future where everyone's got AI implants in their heads, life is pretty convenient until capitalism gets involved. The moment Echika steps into the mall, she's bombarded with ads. Luckily, she's got a premium vision subscription, so after a quick payment, poof, the ads vanish, and she can finally focus on her actual task, helping her coworker pick out some jewelry. To make things easier, she brings along her android assistant, Harold. He's got top-tier decision-making software and, apparently, the latest charisma update, because her coworker is practically swooning over him. A few smooth compliments later, she buys a pendant because if an AI tells you it looks good, it must be true. As they walk her to the train station, she makes it painfully clear she'd love to spend more time with Harold. She even offers to oil his drive shaft, which sends Harold into full-on awkward mode. He settles for a stiff handshake and a desperate attempt to change the subject. Then, in an unexpected plot twist, the coworker remembers Echika exists. She thanks her for the help and, in the same breath, apologizes for all the trash she talked about her in the group chat. Echika, completely unprepared for this social landmine, opts for the safest strategy: pretend she didn't hear it. They go their separate ways. Harold, being the socially aware AI he is, points out that the whole shopping trip was probably the coworker's way of making amends. He even suggests she might be a decent friend. Touching moment aside, he then asks why Echika didn't pick out a pendant for herself. Turns out, jewelry reminds her of her sister, and that's a rabbit hole she'd rather avoid. Harold is so shocked by her honesty that his processors take a second to reboot. Normally, she just ignores him. Progress? Maybe. But just as things start to feel normal, a detective crashes their moment. He's here to question Harold, and before they know it, Harold is being dragged into an interrogation room, accused of assault, which is ridiculous because he definitely didn't do it. Detective Brown, however, is determined to get a confession out of him. Even after checking Harold's memory files and finding zero evidence, he insists they could have been tampered with. The victims reported being attacked by an android, and since Harold is an android, well, obviously, it must be him. That's detective logic for you. Echika argues that Harold's programming literally prevents him from harming humans, but Brown counters with the case of another android, Steven, who lost control and attacked someone. Since Harold and Steven are built from the same core programming, Brown figures Harold could snap too. For good measure, he throws in Marvin, another android from their batch, who's currently missing and, for all they know, could be out causing chaos. Basically, Harold is guilty by association. Frustrated, Echika offers to do a brain dive into the victim's memories to clear Harold's name. Brown refuses conflict of interest, blah blah. She's forced to leave while Harold remains stuck in android purgatory. Later, she meets up with her coworker Daria, who's already heard the news and is very concerned. Echika reassures her that Harold wouldn't hurt a fly unless it was programmed to be punched, maybe, but Daria is worried he'll be shut down anyway. Echika vows not to let that happen. That night, she sneaks back to check on Harold, who's surprisingly calm despite his impending trip to robot prison. Suspiciously calm, she asks if he knows something, and while they don't have solid proof, it's possible the real culprit is Marvin or someone pretending to be an android. But before they can dig deeper, Echika's phone rings. It's Brown, and he sounds panicked. He demands to know where she is. She tells him she's in the interrogation room with Harold. Brown storms in, eyes darting around, then asks if Harold has been here the whole time. Echika confirms it, and just in case Brown doesn't believe her, the underpaid intern assigned to watch Harold backs her up. That's when it hits Brown he's made a huge mistake. While he was busy shaking down the wrong android, the real culprit struck again. And this time, the victim was Dua. Alright, here's the deal: Dua survived the attack, but she's in a coma, which is not ideal. But before she blacked out, she sent Harold a message on his watch, giving him permission to do a brain dive. Meanwhile, Echika is stuck in a tense meeting with all the department heads. where the chairman is convinced this attack is somehow linked to the Pittsburgh incident that got her husband, Sam, killed. Most of the others aren't buying it, but that's not even the biggest issue at hand. The chief then turns to Totoki and says that even if Harold isn't the culprit, once the public finds out he's the same model as the rogue android Steven, it's going to be a PR nightmare. His brilliant solution: shut Harold down immediately. Totoki, to her credit, is not having it. She tells the chairman he's out of his mind if he thinks they're going to scrap Harold for no reason. Investigations have already proven that Harold isn't a threat, and if he had any dangerous glitches, they would have caught them by now. But the chairman insists Harold is the first of a new generation of AI, meaning he can think for himself. That, in his eyes, makes him a liability. Angus, another department head, rolls his eyes and explains that Harold doesn't actually have free will, he just mimics human decision-making. Besides, Steven only attacked someone because a programmer named Ellis tampered with his system. Odds are, Ellis is behind this mess too. Still, the chairman wants Harold shut down just in case. At this point, Echika can't stay quiet anymore. She argues that Harold is critical to the cybercrime division. Without him, brain dives are nearly impossible. Every human assistant she's worked with has ended up in a vegetative state. Harold is literally the only one who can keep up. Getting rid of him would cripple their investigations. Seeing her point, Totoki suggests they focus on solving the case instead of panicking. She proposes that Echika take over the android assault investigation, and the best way to start? A brain dive into Dua's memories. Since Dua already gave consent and her vitals are stable, the doctors give them the go-ahead. Echika and Harold link up, dive into Dua's mind, and find her floating in a metaphorical ocean of pain. They push forward, locating the memory of the attack. Dua was walking in an alley when some hooded guy stabbed her and ran. But just before she passed out, she got a clear look at his face. It looked exactly like Harold, but she could tell it wasn't actually him. That's why she left him the message so he could clear his name. With the info they needed, Harold yanks Echika out of the dive to keep Dua stable. Her heart rate spiked a little from the stress, but overall, she's fine. Based on what they saw, it's obvious the culprit was an android. The logical suspect: Marvin, the missing third unit in Harold's model line. But Harold isn't convinced Marvin has a mole on his cheek, and the attacker didn't. Then again, maybe he covered it up. Either way, they now have a major clue: the knife used in the attack had a logo on it. That logo might just lead them to the truth. The next day, Harold and Echika are out investigating when Harold gets word that Nikolai Dua's brother-in-law has arrived in town. He's here to look after her while she recovers. On an unrelated note, Harold takes a moment to thank Echika. He heard she defended him in the meeting when the chairman wanted to shut him down. Echika shrugs it off, saying Totoki was also on his side. But Harold is still touched. It shows she cares about him, at least a little. He asks if she's finally warming up to him, even though he's an android. She doesn't deny it, but she makes it very clear that doesn't mean she likes him. Back to the case. Turns out, the logo on the knife belongs to Alestone College. The knife was a graduation gift, meaning someone from the college is connected to the attacks. If they want answers, there's one person they have to talk to: the genius behind all android programming, Lexi Willow Carter. And that's where episode 1 ends. Stick around for the next part. Things are only getting crazier from here.